The void between stars had been quiet for 3,000 years. In the outer rim of the Andara system, what most alien civilizations had catalogued as a dead world began to stir. The massive sphere, nearly the size of Earth itself, had drifted silently through space since the Great War ended. Its surface was scarred with ancient battle wounds craters that could swallow moons, and trenches deep enough to hide entire fleets deep within the planet's core. Systems that had slumbered for millennia began to hum with life. Commander, Jake Miller felt the awakening like electricity in his bones. His eyes snapped open in the command chamber, a vast cathedral of metal and crystal buried miles beneath the outer hall. Around him, thousands of other humans emerged from their long sleep, stepping out of preservation pods that had kept them alive through the dark centuries. "Status report," Jake called out, his voice echoing through the chamber. His crew moved with practiced efficiency despite their long rest. The ship for this world was indeed a ship had been their home, their weapon, and their fortress during humanity's darkest hour. Lieutenant Tom Harris checked his instruments. "All systems coming online, sir. The Titan-class engines are responding. Weapon systems at 60% and climbing." Jake nodded, walking to the massive viewing screen that showed the stars outside. Somewhere out there, the alien races that had once tried to destroy humanity were still thriving. The Krell Empire with their insectoid fleets. The Vorthan Republic and their energy-based warriors. The machine collective that turned entire worlds into factory planets. They thought humanity was gone. They thought wrong. "Sir," called out Pilot Anna Ross from her station, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures." The other ships are waking up too. Through the quantum communication network, Jake felt the presence of his fellow commanders. Admiral Rick Stone aboard the Earthbreaker, a shipworld bristling with continent-sized cannons. Captain Lisa Wong commanding the Starforge, whose factories could build entire fleets while traveling faster than light. Captain Mike Johnson on the Shieldwell, a defensive fortress that could protect solar systems. 12 planet-sized ships in total. Humanity's final gambit from the war that had nearly ended their species. "This is Admiral Stone to all ships," came the familiar voice through the comm. "Welcome back to the living, everyone. I trust you all slept well." Jake smiled grimly. Rick hadn't changed. Even after 3,000 years of sleep, he still had that dry humor that had kept them all sane during the darkest battles. "What's our situation, Admiral?" Jake asked. "Sensors show the galaxy has been busy while we napped. The Krell have expanded their territory by 300%. The Vorthan Republic controls most of the inner systems. And there are new players something called the Star Federation that seems to think they run the show now." Jake pulled up tactical displays around his command chair. The galaxy map showed a very different picture from the one they had left behind. Humanity's former colonies were marked as ruins or alien settlements. Earth itself was listed as a dead world, strip mined for resources. "They erased us from history," muttered Lieutenant Sam Parker, studying the cultural data streams. "Not erased," Jake corrected, his voice growing cold. "They tried to erase us. But humanity doesn't die that easily." The Thunderstrike shuddered as its massive engines fully awakened. Jake felt the power flowing through the ship like blood through veins. Each planet ship was a masterpiece of human engineering and determination. When conventional fleets had failed, when their colonies burned and their people died, humanity had poured everything into these 12 vessels. They were more than ships. They were moving worlds, each one capable of supporting millions of humans while delivering firepower that could crack planets. They were fortresses, factories, farms, and weapons all in one. They were humanity's promise that they would never again be defenseless. "Admiral, this is Captain Wong. My manufacturing bays are online. I can start producing scout ships within the hour." "Good. Captain Johnson, how are your defensive systems?" "Shields at full power, Admiral. I can cover the fleet while we get our bearings." Jake watched as his crew continued their wake-up procedures. These men and women had volunteered to sleep away their lives, trusting that someday they would wake to fight again. They had families they would never see again, homes that were now dust. But they had done it willingly, because someone had to be humanity's sword and shield. All ships. This is Admiral Stone. Begin Phase 1 reconnaissance. We need to know what we're dealing with out there. Humanity has been gone for 3,000 years. Jake keyed his comm. Understood, Admiral. The Thunderstrike is ready for orders. Outside the viewing screen, stars that had witnessed humanity's fall now watched their return. The galaxy had grown comfortable in their absence. That comfort was about to end. Asterisk. The Krell Patrol fleet was conducting routine sweeps of the dead zone when their sensors detected something impossible. Commander Vex studied the readings with growing unease, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as his insectoid mind processed the data, double quotes, size, ta. Energy output. Impossible levels. Moving at. This cannot be right. He clicked to his bridge crew in the Krell tongue. The massive shape drifted through space like a metallic moon, its surface scarred but undeniably artificial. Ancient weapon ports dotted its hull like craters, each one large enough to swallow a Krell battleship. Most disturbing of all were the lights, millions of them, indicating a thriving population within. "Send word to High Command," Vex ordered. "We have found something that should not exist." 3 systems away, Jake Miller sat in his command chair aboard the Thunderstrike, watching the alien patrol ships through long-range sensors. His ship had been running silent, but they would be detected soon enough. Better to control the encounter. "Open a channel," he ordered. Lieutenant Harris hesitated. "Sir, we haven't made contact with aliens since they tried to wipe us out." "I remember, Tom, but they need to know we're back. All of them." The communication array, built into the ship's hull like a metallic mountain range, focused its signal on the Krell fleet. Jake had studied their language during the war. Some things you never forget. Krell vessels. This is Commander Jake Miller of the human ship Thunderstrike. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. The silence stretched for long minutes. Jake could picture the panic on their bridge as they tried to process what they were hearing. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. The history books said so. Finally, Commander Vex responded, his translated voice crackling with static and disbelief. "Impossible. Humans are gone. Dead. We saw your worlds burn. You saw some of our worlds burn." Jake corrected, his voice calm but carrying an edge that could cut steel. "We got better." On the tactical display, Jake watched as the Krell ships began to form an attack formation. Old habits died hard, it seemed. The insectoid race had always been aggressive, always ready to fight first and think later. "Sir," called out Weapons Officer Dave Chun from his station. "They're powering weapons. Orders?" Jake considered for a moment. The Krell Patrol consisted of 12 ships cruiser class, heavily armed by galactic standards. Against any normal human vessel from the old days, they would have been overwhelming force. Against the Thunderstrike, they were barely worth noticing. Fire a warning shot. Something they'll remember. The planet ship's main gun was a cannon that stretched across an entire continent of its surface. When it fired, the beam of pure energy was visible from 3 star systems away. It carved through empty space and struck a dead moon in the distance, splitting it cleanly in half. The Krell ships immediately stopped their advance. "Now that I have your attention," Jake continued, "let me be perfectly clear. Humanity has returned. We are not the broken species you remember. We are not asking for territory or negotiating for peace. We are informing you of a new reality." Commander Vex's voice came back shaky. "What do you want?" "For now, nothing. But things are going to change in this galaxy. The strong have ruled long enough. It's time for the intelligent to take charge. Jake cut the transmission and leaned back in his chair. Around him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had all lived through the war, had all seen what happened when humanity tried to play fair with races that respected only strength. "Sir," Lieutenant Ross called from her station. "The Earthbreaker is reporting contact with a Vorthan science vessel. Captain Wong has encountered a machine collective mining operation. All ships are being detected. Good. Let them see us. Let them remember what they thought they had destroyed." On the quantum network, Admiral Stone's voice came through clearly. "All ships, Phase 1 is complete. The galaxy knows we're here. Time for Phase 2. Begin the demonstration." Jake smiled without humor. The demonstration, a carefully planned show of force, designed to remind the galaxy why humanity had been feared even when they were losing the war. 12 planet ships spreading out across known space, each one a moving monument to human persistence and ingenuity. "Tom, plot a course for the Krell home system. Nice and slow. I want them to see us coming." "Sir, that will take us through 3 major shipping lanes and past 2 alien military bases." "Perfect. By the time we reach Krell space, half the galaxy will be watching." The Thunderstrike began to move, its massive engines pushing the planet-sized ship through space at speeds that defied physics. Behind it, the Krell patrol ships followed at a respectful distance, their commanders frantically reporting to their superiors in the depths of space. Humanity's ghosts had returned to haunt those who thought themselves the inheritors of the galaxy. Asterisk. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Representatives from every major power crowded into the great chamber on Nexus Prime, their voices creating a cacophony of fear, anger, and disbelief in dozens of languages. High Chancellor Moore of the Vorthan Republic called for order, his energy form flickering with stress patterns. "Silence. We must address this crisis with clear minds." Prime Hive Lord Kex of the Krell, Empire, slammed his chitinous fist on his delegation's table. "Crisis? This is invasion. The humans return with weapons of impossible scale. We must strike first before." "Before what?" interrupted Collective Node 7 Prime, its mechanical voice cutting through the din. "Before we acknowledge that we failed to completely eliminate them, that our historical records were incomplete." Ambassador Tall of the Star Federation, a newer power that had risen during humanity's absence, stood to address the chamber. "Perhaps we should attempt diplomatic contact. 3,000 years have passed. Surely they can be reasoned with." A chamber erupted in bitter laughter from the older races. Chancellor Moore's form pulsed with dark humor. "Reasoned with? You were not here during the human wars. You did not see what they were capable of when they were desperate. Now they return with ships the size of worlds." On the great display screen at the center of the chamber, tactical reports streamed in continuously. 12 massive contacts moving through space, each one broadcasting the same message on all frequencies. The transmission had been repeating for 6 hours now, and every government in the galaxy was trying to decode its full meaning. The screen flickered, and suddenly the familiar face of Admiral Rick Stone appeared. His image was crystal clear, despite being transmitted across half the galaxy. Behind him, the bridge of the Earthbreaker stretched away like a metal canyon filled with human activity. "To all who can hear this message," Stone began, his voice calm and measured. "I am Admiral Rick Stone of the Human Federation Defense Force. 3,000 years ago, your civilizations attempted to exterminate humanity. You burned our colonies, enslaved our people, and declared our species extinct." The chamber fell silent. Every ambassador, every representative, every aide focused on the screen with total attention. "You were wrong," Stone continued. "Humanity does not die easily. When you drove us to the edge of extinction, we did not surrender. We adapted. We built these ships not just as weapons, but as arcs. 12 worlds that could sustain our civilization indefinitely, while carrying enough firepower to crack planets. Chancellor Moore leaned forward, his energy form brightening with anxiety. The technical specifications they had gathered were terrifying enough, but hearing it confirmed was somehow worse. For 3,000 years, we have slept and dreamed of this moment. We have dreamed of justice, of balance, of teaching this galaxy that some species refuse to be erased from history. Prime. Hive Lord Kex's mandibles clicked with agitation. Threats. Empty threats from a dead species. Stone seemed to hear him across the void. You think these are threats? Allow me to demonstrate our capabilities. The transmission cut to an external view of the Earthbreaker. The planet ship hung in space like a metallic moon, its surface bristling with weapons that dwarfed entire space stations. As the assembled delegates watched, a section of the hull opened like a flowering metal blossom. The target is an uninhabited system, designated X7742 in your charts. Distance, 47 light years. Observe. What emerged from the Young-D? Earthbreaker's hull was unlike anything in the known galaxy. A projectile the size of a city block, propelled by energies that bent space itself. The weapon disappeared in a flash of twisted light, traveling faster than anything the assembled races had ever imagined possible. 43 seconds later, long-range sensors confirmed the impossible. X7742's primary star had been extinguished. The chamber erupted in pandemonium. Delegates fled their seats, some screaming in their native languages, others frantically trying to contact their home governments. The implications were staggering. A weapon that could kill stars, fired with pinpoint accuracy across interstellar distances. Stone's face reappeared on the screen, his expression unchanged. That was a demonstration. We have 11 more ships, each carrying similar capabilities. We also have colony ships, factory ships, and agricultural worlds. Humanity is no longer dependent on planetary colonies that you can burn. Ambassador Tao, his face pale with shock, managed to speak. What? What do you want? Justice, Stone replied simply. The galaxy spent centuries trying to prove that might makes right, that the strong deserve to rule over the weak. You used that philosophy to justify genocide. Now you will learn what happens when the weak become stronger than you ever imagined. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Outside, across the galaxy, 12 planet ships continued their slow march through space, each one a promise of reckoning 3 millennia in the making. 3 weeks after the Starkiller demonstration, the galaxy had fractured into chaos. Trade routes collapsed as merchant ships refused to travel through systems where human planet ships might appear. Military fleets mobilized only to realize the futility of their conventional weapons. Entire civilizations debated whether to flee to distant galaxies or attempt surrender. Jake Miller stood in the observation deck of the Thunderstrike, watching a sight that would have been impossible just a month ago. Below them, a Krell mining operation worked frantically to evacuate their equipment from an asteroid field. The insectoid workers scuttled about in obvious panic, their ships departing as quickly as they could manage. They're actually leaving, observed Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief science officer. No resistance, no demands, just running. Fear is a powerful motivator, Jake replied, though his tone carried no satisfaction. The question is whether it will lead to wisdom or desperation. His communication console chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Stone. Jake, we've got a situation developing in the Helix sector. Captain Wong is requesting backup. Jake frowned. Lisa Wong commanded the Starforge, one of their most powerful ships. If she needed help, something significant was happening. What's the nature of the threat? It's not a threat, exactly. She's encountered refugees. Lots of them. The Thunderstrike changed course, its massive bulk moving through hyperspace toward the Helix sector. When they arrived, Jake understood Wong's dilemma immediately. Spread across 3 star systems were hundreds of ships, not military vessels, but civilian transports, cargo haulers, and colony ships. All of them broadcasting the same message on repeat. "Please," came the voice of what sounded like a young Vorthan female. "We seek sanctuary. Our world was destroyed in the Krell expansion wars. We have nowhere else to go. We throw ourselves upon human mercy." Jake stared at the tactical display showing thousands of alien refugees. These weren't the warriors who had burned human colonies or the politicians who had declared his species extinct. These were families, children, survivors of conflicts that had nothing to do with humanity's ancient war. "Sir," Lieutenant Harris called from his station, "I'm reading massive starvation signatures from their ships. Some of those transports are running on emergency power only." Through the quantum link, Jake could hear the debate raging between the other ship commanders. Captain Johnson's voice was hard with old anger. "They showed no mercy to our people. Why should we show mercy to theirs?" But Captain Wong's response was equally firm. "Because we're better than they were. Because mercy is what separates civilization from barbarism." Jake activated his personal communicator. "Admiral, requesting permission to address the refugee fleet directly." "Granted. All ships are monitoring." Jake took a deep breath and opened a channel to the alien ships. "Attention refugee vessels. This is Commander Jake Miller of the Human Federation. We have received your request for sanctuary." The response was immediate, thousands of voices in dozens of languages, pleading, thanking, crying. Jake waited for the chaos to subside before continuing. "Before we proceed, you should understand something about humanity. We remember everything. We remember every burned colony, every enslaved human, every declaration that our species deserved extinction. We carry those memories like scars." The channel fell silent except for the soft sound of alien breathing and the hum of life support systems pushed beyond their limits. "But we also remember what we were before the war. We remember that strength without mercy is just brutality wearing a crown. You seek sanctuary from us because you believe we are stronger than those who hunt you. You are correct. But our strength comes not from our weapons, but from our choice to be better than our enemies. Asterisk. Jake looked out at the refugee ships, seeing the running lights of vessels that carried the desperate and displaced. "The Thunderstrike will escort your fleet to the Kepler Haven system. It is uninhabited, but suitable for colonization. We will provide temporary supplies and basic infrastructure. In return, you will establish a neutral zone, a place where any species can find refuge from war." Captain Johnson's voice crackled over the quantum link. "Jake, this is a mistake. We're showing weakness." "No, Bill," Jake replied calmly. "We're showing that we learned something during our long sleep. The galaxy doesn't need another empire built on fear. It needs shepherds, not wolves." Admiral Stone's voice cut through the debate. "Commander Miller's decision stands. All ships will provide what aid they can spare to the refugee fleet." As the Thunderstrike began moving toward the Kepler system, its massive hull protecting the smaller ships like a mobile fortress, Jake felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Not satisfaction in victory, but the quiet pride that comes from choosing the harder path. Behind them, long-range sensors detected Krell pursuit ships abandoning their chase. Even the most aggressive species knew better than to attack a convoy under human protection. The galaxy was learning new rules. Humanity had returned not just as conquerors, but as something far more dangerous as judges. Asterisk 6 months had passed since humanity's awakening, and the galaxy bore little resemblance to the one they had left behind. The Kepler Haven system had become a beacon of hope. Its 3 habitable worlds now home to refugees from 17 different species. The sight of former enemies working side by side to build something better was a miracle no one had dared imagine. Jake Miller walked through the observation galleries of New Geneva Station, humanity's first new construction in 3 millennia. Unlike the warships that had announced their return, this station was built for peace, a massive diplomatic complex where species could meet without fear of ancient grudges erupting into violence. The Vorthen Republic has formally requested membership in the Haven Alliance, reported Ambassador Helen Park, humanity's new diplomatic representative. That makes 23 species who've joined the Mutual Protection Treaty. Jake nodded, studying the holographic display that showed the growing network of protected systems. What had started as a refugee camp had evolved into something unprecedented, a true alliance based on mutual aid rather than conquest or subjugation. What about the holdouts? He asked. The Krell Empire is still refusing all contact. A machine collective remains neutral, but has stopped its expansion programs. The Star Federation ... Helen paused, consulting her notes. They've requested a formal meeting. Their new president wants to discuss terms for coexistence. Through the station's massive windows, Jake could see the Thunderstrike in the distance, its weapons powered down, but its presence still commanding respect. The planet ship had become something it was never designed to be, a symbol of protection rather than destruction. His communicator chimed with Admiral Stone's voice. Jake, we've got incoming vessels in the outer system. You're going to want to see this. Jake made his way to the command center, where the tactical display showed a sight that made him stop breathing for a moment. A Krell fleet was approaching, not the patrol vessels they'd encountered before, but a full war armada. Hundreds of ships arranged in perfect battle formation. Admiral, Jake called over the comm. Should we wait? Stone's voice was calm but alert. They're broadcasting something. Helena put it through. The voice that filled the command center was that of Prime Hive Lord Kex himself, the same alien who had called for humanity's destruction in the Galactic Council. But his tone was different now, measured, careful. Admiral Stone, Commander Miller, I request permission to approach. Haven Station under a flag of truce. Jake exchanged glances with Ambassador Park. In all their years of conflict, the Krell had never requested anything. They demanded, they took, they conquered. They didn't ask permission. Permission granted, Jake replied. You may approach with a single vessel. Your fleet will remain at the system's edge. An hour later, Jake found himself in the station's main conference room, facing a being he had fought against for decades. Prime Hive Lord Kex was massive even by Krell standards, his chitinous armor bearing the scars of countless battles. But as he stood across the table from Jake, there was something different about him, a weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. I have come to surrender, Kex said without preamble, his translated voice carrying none of its usual arrogance. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Jake kept his expression neutral despite his shock. Surrender? The Krell Empire is collapsing. Without the constant wars of expansion to unite our hives, we have begun fighting among ourselves. Food riots plague our core worlds. Our military cannot maintain order. Kex's 4 eyes focused on Jake with unsettling intensity. You were right, human. Might alone does not make right. It only makes enemies. Jake leaned back in his chair, processing this development. The Krell Empire had been humanity's greatest enemy during the war, the species most responsible for the near extinction of his people. And now their leader sat before him, broken and asking for help. What do you want from us? Jake asked. Teach us, Kex said simply. Show us how to build something that lasts longer than the next conquest. My people are dying, Commander Miller. Not from your weapons, but from our own nature. If we continue as we are, the Krell will be extinct within a generation. Jake stood and walked to the window, looking out at the bustling activity of Haven Station. Former enemies worked together on construction projects. Children of different species played in the common areas. Diplomats from dozens of civilizations debated policy in the chambers below. The price of joining their alliance isn't surrender, Jake said finally. It's change. Real change. Can your people accept that? Kex was silent for a long moment. We must. The alternative is extinction. Jake turned back to face the Krell leader. Then welcome to the future, Hive Lord. It's messier than war, but it's worth building. Outside, the Thunderstrike and its sister ships maintained their eternal watch, no longer weapons of vengeance, but guardians of a new galaxy where strength served wisdom instead of conquest. Humanity had awakened not to destroy their enemies, but to teach them something far more powerful than fear. They had taught them hope. The end asterisk